Hello, everybody. It's Lina Washington and Sean Cunningham back with you to talk some Kings basketball, which we are going to have available to us in just a matter of hours by the time some of these lovely viewers around the world check out this video. We are on the eve of the NBA restart. We got two games coming up on Thursday, the Jazz and the Pelicans, and then the battle for LA with the Clippers and the Lakers. But the Kings will open up their stretch of 8 games on Friday against the Spurs. And as we saw in their scrimmages, they are maybe not firing on all cylinders yet, but they at least have guys mostly healthy and available. And if nothing else, they're feeling pretty confident going in, Sean.
No, they are, and it's happening at the right time. I mean, they've certainly been impacted by the virus, injuries. They lose Marvin Bagley, but let's face it, he hasn't really been around most of the year anyway. So they're hoping to replicate the way they were playing before things got suspended. And like Buddy Hield said today after practice, that he's noticed that the practices are ramping up a bit. And the quote that kind of went everywhere, which is, "They want all the smoke."
No, man, we going there with the mindset to go there and like I said, it's an 8-game tournament, and we want all the smoke. You know, we go there, compete, and try to win this tournament, and hopefully teams that are ahead of us will be knocked off. You know, and we just got to control what we control, and let us win games. So take one game at a time, and move on to the next and win that one, and move the other 6 or the 7. Let's take one game at a time and win one. It's something that we never been through before, and we have to adjust. But you know, it's life, and you know, we're blessed to be here, and we don't get to see our families, but we still provide for them and putting food on the table, and they got a roof over their head, and that's the main point. And thank God for giving us the opportunity to go there and resume the NBA season so we can be able to make money to help our families and stuff like that. And yeah, it sucks right now, but it's going to all be better for the long run.
This tournament against opponents, they only have a 3-9 record, but when it starts off on Friday, they're actually favored in that game by 2.5 points against the Spurs. And I probably wouldn't have guessed that, but you know, and good for them. They should be feeling good because every team has been impacted this way. They feel that they've dealt with the circumstances the right way. They feel the way they run can get them an advantage and hopefully catch some teams on their heels. And, you know, towards the end of the schedule a little bit, they're going to be playing teams like the Lakers and the Clippers. Who knows if those teams will even field full units. That final game against the Lakers, who knows if you're going up against Anthony Davis and LeBron James. They might just choose to rest them. So there's a good opportunity. I think the two of us have been on we've been pretty honest in saying we don't think that they'll be able to catch Memphis or even get into that play-in tournament between the 8 and 9 seed. You only have to be within 3 games, but I think they'll probably – this team has shown, even when they're successful, to be right around a 500 basketball team, and that's kind of what I expect for these next 8 games.
Yeah, and they're 3.5 games out, tied with the Pelicans and the Trailblazers, chasing Memphis. So I feel like a lot has to go right for the Kings for them to get some kind of advantage in jockeying for that 8th seed if they have a fighting chance. But as we heard, you know, save Marvin Bagley, who is going to be held out for the rest of the season after his foot sprain. I mean, they've got their guys back. We heard from Harrison Barnes, who rejoined the team after his following NBA protocol. As we know, he tested positive for coronavirus earlier this month. He was one of 4 players on the team to test positive. But, you know, we also had a bit of a moment of almost vulnerability where he shared that the virus didn't just impact him, it impacted his family. His wife was very sick. His mother was sick as well. But his coming out to Orlando was kind of determinant of if one of his family members had to be admitted to the hospital, and thankfully no one did. But this is something that's very real and something that, again, these guys are separated from their families for weeks, maybe months. And thankfully, the NBA has reported a second consecutive round, I should say, of 0 positive coronavirus tests within the 344 personnel, players who were tested. So it seems like Adam Silver's plan and the plan that they've agreed on with the Players Association so far is turning out pretty well.
Yeah, it is. And it's a little bit, I think it's surprising for some people. I still think, you know, look, they know that they're expecting to have tests. They're expecting to have people within the bubble test positive. And they think that there's protocols in place to where, you know, they'll isolate those players and be able to continue as if, you know, the game goes on, next man up mentality. And so far, so good. And I think one of the big things is what does this look like a month from now? Because obviously teams will be leaving the bubble as they get eliminated. Other people will be entering, more media, more team personnel, executives, more, and let's face it, family will be able to come through. Each player will have a significant other, however that looks like. So maintaining that stability of the bubble is huge. So far, so good. But you're right. I think even when it comes to the Kings, you mentioned Harrison, who didn't have any symptoms for himself personally, but obviously you mentioned how his wife and his mother and their battle with it. And gosh, it's their anniversary today, Harrison and his wife, as we record this on Wednesday. And to be away, and even Kent Bazemore, who is away from a young child that he has that's about a year old and his pregnant wife, that's got to be tough. But I also think this is happening at the right time. We have face-to-face video communications. You have your ability to do so on your phone. And can you imagine if this was happening even 10 years ago? Stuff like that wouldn't have existed.
Absolutely. I think we have technology to thank for making this whole experience a little bit more bearable for everyone, really. But it's been also kind of a fun part for us, I think, as members of the media, to see these guys bond with what's available to them in the bubble. I mean, we know Kent Bazemore is an avid golfer, but to see him out there with Bogey and Kyle Guy and Yogi, and as we've seen Buddy Hield catching a couple fish, I don't know if that's maybe the same fish that every player's caught, but it seems like they're having a good time with what they have available to them in the circumstances. And to build that morale right now, I feel like is invaluable almost, in just being able to kind of keep that mentality and that energy throughout this very difficult and unusual time for everyone trying to make this happen.
Are you insinuating they're catching the same fish? as if one fish just has the bad luck, or somebody catches it and they just pass it around as if they caught it?
No, I feel like maybe someone with the Walt Disney World Resort might just be trying to make these guys feel confident a little bit. Just, you never know what's happening, what the mouse has got going on, He's a very powerful mouse.
No, it is. Yeah, it has been. It's been very entertaining, and I know I bring it up every single week. If you haven't seen Matisse Thybulle and his documentary that he does from the bubble, he's a Philadelphia 76ers rookie and incredible personality. It was great because he's been kind of the one guy that's been doing this, and the Kings have finally, they've got members of their digital team and they're pumping out content as usual, and they're finally showing stuff that's happening within the bubble that isn't practices and scrimmages and stuff like that. So they're showing behind the scenes stuff, and it was fun because we're hearing of how Corey Joseph caught the biggest fish, and finally we got to see what that looked like on one of their videos, and how Bogey talks about how Corey's the captain of the boat and taking the boat. So Kings spent some time on the boat with Corey as he's driving around, and he's got his Canadian accent, so he's calling it boat, and the way so the golf stuff is great too, and I can't wait to actually tomorrow I should have the opportunity to speak with Kent Bazemore, and we're going to get into golf a little bit because Bogey mentioned how he just picked up golf because of the quarantine to find something to do, and he's got the bug, no pun intended with the virus, but he absolutely loves it. He's gone out with Kyle Guy a lot and then of course you see Bazemore, who again I've said is probably the next to Steph Curry, maybe Andre Iguodala, probably the best golfer actively in the NBA, and he takes it very, very seriously and looks every bit of the part.
Absolutely. I will also just throw in there, JaVale McGee's vlog of the bubble life is pretty entertaining, if I do say so myself.
Have you seen Hassan Whiteside singing the hits of the 80s?
Oh no, but I am very, very intrigued. That's going to be my next watch after we wrap up this digital show here. But I'm certainly looking forward to just seeing what the NBA has in store. I mean, we've gotten a taste of what it looks like to feel with the virtual fans and the piped-in noise, but I'm sure that the NBA and various teams have things up their sleeve in terms of when it comes to using their platform to speak to social and racial injustice. We know that Harrison Barnes will be wearing Say Their Names on the back of his jersey. I believe Harry Giles as well. And before he was held out of competition, we knew Marvin Bagley was going to have freedom on the back of his. But I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of moments we have to speak to this moment in culture that we're living through, this historic moment in sports. And this is going to be something that's very close to a lot of these players' hearts, to have this opportunity to use their platform in this way. Harrison Barnes, even, starting off his media availability with honoring the lives of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and so many others who have been impacted, their lives cut short at the hands of racism or police brutality. So I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how the league, individual players, and teams kind of use this moment to speak to that. During the Kings broadcast, during I believe it was their first scrimmage, we saw a message that was a video message between the Timberwolves and the Kings, kind of using their voice, with Jesse Mermis and head coach Luke Walton featured, among others. So I think that's going to be a very important headline and storyline as we move forward with this NBA restart.
Yeah, and you mentioned Harrison. He's been so eloquent. He's kind of been the team spokesperson, if you will, when it comes to social justice messages, and him and Bobby Jackson as well. And I think what's great is the way Harrison does it, because, obviously they're there to play basketball, and he realizes that. But the platform is there. You don't want to silence anybody's voice. And, we in the media, that's the way to use the media to deliver that message and use that platform. And obviously we have jobs to do as well. But the interest there is because you play basketball. And I think he does a really good way of balancing both of them. And I think it's been effective. You've seen the way his message has gone across. Other guys have had a little struggle with it. And I'm not saying one's better than the other, but when someone comes out with the Rasheed Wallace, just repeat the same message over and over and over again, it's not going to work. I mean, media won't come to you if that's all you're going to do. And so the message kind of gets lost. So I think Harry Giles had a really impactful thing about Breonna Taylor the other day, at a time when he was really opening up about his future and what he's dealing with in terms of his future in Sacramento, the contract that's weighing on him, and possibly only having 8 games remaining with an organization that he absolutely adores. So seeing what the future holds for him and the way he's effective in using that message. And let's face it, the NBA, you haven't had the most bold, symbolic messages over the past few years. We've seen maybe a fist in the air. We've seen T-shirts worn or guys interlocking arms during the anthem, but everyone has stood. And beginning tomorrow in those 2 games that'll open up the season, you're going to see players kneel. And unfortunately, I think that's going to get a lot of the headlines because it just hasn't happened yet. But it's not going to be all that unique, because we've seen it in the NFL, obviously, and baseball has started it, where you're seeing entire teams at certain points take a knee. So I think that's going to dominate. I think it's going to provide a good discussion. But by the time the Kings play on Friday, what's it look like then? Is there anything else they can do? And kind of going back to what I said about Matisse Thybulle, his latest episode, it was interesting to see how he is a rookie. His veteran is Tobias Harris. They've got Kyle O'Quinn, and they met as a small group with a member of the front office in trying to figure out what's the most effective, impactful way that they can do something during their time in the bubble. Is it during games? And they're really having meetings to plan this out and not only and kind of unify a message among the team, but also recognizing that even though they're comfortable in saying it, they need to make sure that every member on that team is comfortable in saying it. And I thought it was it provided brilliant insight as to what their thought process is. I don't know that that's the same process going on with the Kings, but it's certainly conversations that are going to be had, that have been had over the past couple weeks. And we know that the Kings have the jerseys. We'll see how they demonstrate, and we'll see what steps they take.
Of course, and as we've documented and followed, the Kings have been one of the teams at the forefront, I think, of using their organization as a vehicle for change in their own community, especially in Sacramento following the shooting death of Stephon Clark. We saw so many programs, initiatives, forums open to youth to just express and heal. So the Kings have been very active in their community to use their platform in this way. I'm sure that kind of mentality traveled with them to Orlando as well. And so we're looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. The Kings will start their stretch of 8 games on Friday, the 31st, against the Spurs. And then it's basically like Buddy Hield and all the guys like to say, it's a tournament. It's kind of like, as I've discussed offline with some of my close friends, it's a high-level AAU tournament with the ball, from the ballrooms and the basketball courts and the ballroom to the level of urgency that these guys are up against when it comes to shocking the world, making a run. And for these guys, they've got the longest active playoff drought in the NBA. So
boy, do I know that. Do I know that?
Pressure. Yes. So yeah, you've been around for, I think, every single one of them, Sean. Isn't it your fault that they are in this drought?
Yeah. When we started, they were here. They were Western Conference Finals team, and they've nosedived ever since. But you just look at the way, like, what I'm hoping just from a viewer and watching these games, and maybe this is more unique to the Kings telecast, but I want to hear more from the players. I want to hear. We've heard, I think, it was the second or third game, lots of squeaking from the shoes, the mics that are under the court that they have. That's cool. So I know some people were kind of bothered by it, but I want to hear more of the chatter that's going on, because they've got them almost muted compared to what you would hear even in a game where you have a large crowd. Those games seem to have better sound than what we've witnessed so far. So maybe that changes when we see things tip off for real tomorrow night. But I really do want to see, when it comes to the level of play, they just the perimeter defense just continues to stand out. We know this team has a knack for digging big holes. That's one thing they've carried over from the break. And I also feel, the physicality has been down. I think that's about what we would expect. But luckily, the sloppiness has definitely gone down since the first scrimmage. And Luke Walton has made mention of that. He kind of talked about things that have changed and just these guys being around each other again. So it was kind of to be expected. But those first three games, Lina, you've got the Spurs, you've got the Magic, you've got Dallas. Before we do our show again next week, if they're going to be successful, and I think we both have them right around 4 wins because they've shown a knack to be a 500 team when they've been playing at their best. If they've got any chance of doing this, they've got to almost go 2-1. They got to win 2 of those games. I think Dallas could be a tough one. Which, by the way, did you see? You're talking about the game atmosphere. You've got robotic cameras on the sideline. Did you see Luka Doncic almost get taken out by one?
I missed that, but I don't think I think the league recognizes that that's precious cargo on the court, so nothing can happen to Luka.
Oh man, he goes over to retrieve a loose ball over where press row would normally be, reaches over and he's kind of gathering himself, and here comes the RoboCam zipping by, and he almost got decapitated.
Man, that would not be pretty. There goes the Orlando bubble. Wrap it up, folks.
Yep, let's just back it in. We're done.
Right. But yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to at least getting some kind of feel of what it was like back in March. It's not anywhere close to Golden One Center, particularly entering the fourth quarter when you got our guy, Scott Fresh, out in the middle center court, getting everybody loud. You got the noise meter on the Jumbotron, and who knows when we'll be able to see that again. But we will be able to get some Kings basketball at the very least, some meaningful basketball. Really beginning tomorrow, Thursday. We're recording on a Wednesday, but the Kings will tip off on Friday, and we will continue to bring you the latest. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Sean Cunningham, L Washington TV. We also have a playlist available, as I'm sure you're already living on right now, on YouTube at Ella Sports or ABC 10. We'll be uploading more content throughout the Orlando bubble experience, so be sure to subscribe, share, and check back in with us next week when we have at least 3 contests to dissect and talk about, and we'll look ahead to what the Kings have in store for us in this NBA restart.